In this lesson, I'm going to introduce 4 styles of communication. Understanding the styles will not only help you understand your marriage, but help you improve how you communicate and create a more secure connection within your marriage. Let's start with the 2 dimensions that make up good communication and human relations. One dimension is called assertiveness, which has to do with concern for yourself, your own needs and interests. A spouse who is high on this dimension is good at taking care of her own needs or standing up for her own rights or point of view. The second dimension along the bottom axis is empathy, which is concern for others. A spouse high on empathy is sensitive to the needs and opinions and feelings of her spouse. She wants to hear her partner's opinions, support them in what's important, and take these opinions into account when making decisions. Well, by combining these 2 dimensions, we come up with 4 styles of communication: dominate, avoid, accommodate, and collaborate. Well, let me be clear that you can fall anywhere along either dimension of this model, and so everybody isn't a pure or extreme type. However, you and your spouse can be characterized as having natural tendencies in one or another of the 4 quadrants. Notice from the chart that when we dominate, we're high on assertiveness and low on empathy. When we accommodate, we're high on empathy, low on assertiveness. When we avoid, we're low on both assertiveness and empathy. When we collaborate, we're high on both assertiveness and empathy. In other words, we're good at taking care of our own needs and good at helping other people meet their needs as well. Well, I want to point out that sometimes it's hard to see these styles in our day-to-day conversations when everything's going smoothly. The styles become most apparent during disagreements or conflicts, or I would say sensitive conversations when emotions are more aroused and people are likely to see things differently. But I do want to take a deeper look. Let's look at the 4 styles in a little bit greater depth. Dominators assert their own needs and opinions. They express themselves openly and seek what they want. Since they're high on assertiveness and low on empathy, they have less regard for the opinions of other people or how their decisions might affect their partners. During conflict, they handle their emotions by defending, arguing, lecturing, blaming, maybe even going on the attack. Dominators don't like to be wrong, and they don't like to lose. Their strategy is to convince, control, or even coerce other people into thinking, doing, or believing what they want. They tend to say things like, we must, or should, or ought, or better, my way or the highway, you always, never, that's dumb, why don't you, you ought to know better than that. Let's talk about accommodators. They're people who are high on empathy and low on assertiveness, at least when we're talking about the pure type. So they tend to put the opinions, needs, and feelings of others ahead of their own. They tend to be polite, easy to get along with, non-judgmental, more self-aware than dominators or avoiders. During conflict, they have a tendency to defer to others or even give in or accommodate, go along. This means that they stuff their own feelings and wants rather than getting them out into the open. They're more likely to become silent rather than express themselves very forcefully. Well, not only do accommodators like other people to be happy, but they don't want to offend. They hope that by being nice, they can not only avoid rejection of themselves and criticism, but that others will see that they're nice and eventually come around and treat them well. Over time, accommodators can feel like martyrs, and since they can't be upfront and clear about their own needs, they act out their feelings in more passive-aggressive ways by withholding or getting even. They communicate messages like, what do you want? I want you to feel good about this. It really isn't all that important to me. I may be wrong, but. Or is this okay with you? Or let's try to get along. Or what do you need? Now let me talk about avoiders. Avoiders tend to minimize differences, and avoiding behaviors include denying the seriousness of a situation, suppressing their feelings, using humor or distraction, minimizing, being apathetic, rationalizing, acting as if it's business as usual, dismissing, escaping. Avoiders don't like conflict, and in particular, the strong emotions that conflict brings. So they try to pretend that everything is okay. Their strategy is to leave issues alone and hope that they'll go away. Because they have a hard time dealing with emotional issues, their relationships aren't as deep. They don't disclose their true selves to other people, but seek to play it safe. Avoiders tend to be easygoing, independent, rational, and detached. They tend to say things like, it's no biggie, let's not make a mountain out of a molehill, what's the problem, you're cute when you're mad, I said I was sorry, let's be logical about this. Well, unfortunately, the long-term consequences of each of these communication styles, not all the time, but again, during sensitive conversations or even during conflict, are harmful. Dominators might get their way, but they cause resentment and ill will. Accommodators withhold information about their own opinions or needs, which leaves them eventually feeling like pawns or martyrs who can't influence what's happening. Avoiders direct conversations away from unsafe topics and so prevent people from talking deeply about important matters. The net effect of all of these styles is that spouses fail to talk as openly as they might and at as deep a level about important issues. Well, a fourth and better style of communication is collaboration. Collaborators assert their own point of view and needs, but they also are able to show empathy for the views and needs of other people. And by the way, this is where we want to be, good at both of these dimensions. In a healthy relationship, each spouse can assert their needs and opinions, and yet they can also be sensitive to the needs and feelings of their partner. Understanding this balance is the essence of good communication and a healthy relationship. So what I want to do is invite you to think about which of these styles is most natural to you. Are you a dominator in the way that you communicate in your relationship? Are you an accommodator? Or are you an avoider? Most of us tend to have a natural dialect that is one of these three. What would you consider to be your natural dialect? Well, in the next lesson, I want to introduce 5 common patterns of interacting using these 4 styles so that, again, you can better understand yourself within your relationship.